Pressure reveals people, not because pressure changes who you are, but because it removes what was never stable to begin with. When everything is calm, almost anyone can appear composed. It is easy to speak wisely when nothing is at stake. It is easy to feel confident when outcomes are guaranteed. But pressure is different. Pressure compresses time. It narrows attention. It amplifies emotion. And in those moments, most people do not choose. They react. They speak too quickly. They explain too much. They rush decisions they will later regret. Pressure exposes the gap between intention and discipline. Staying calm under pressure is not a personality trait. It is not talent. And it is not emotional numbness. It is a trained response. Most people misunderstand calmness. They associate it with passivity, softness, or avoidance. But calmness under pressure is not withdrawal. It is containment. It is the ability to hold tension without leaking direction. When pressure arrives, the body reacts first. Heart rate increases. Breathing shortens. Muscles tighten. These reactions are not flaws. They are biological alarms. The mistake is allowing those alarms to take control. A calm person does not eliminate stress. They regulate it. They experience the signal without surrendering authority. That distinction changes outcomes. Under pressure, reactive people seek relief. They want the discomfort to end. So they speak, decide, or act simply to escape tension. Calm people do something else. They allow the tension to exist. They do not rush to resolve it. They understand something most people never learn. Pressure is information. It tells you where structure is weak. It shows where habits are untested. It reveals what truly matters. When you panic, you lose access to that information. When you stay calm, you can use it. Calmness slows perception. It widens the frame. Instead of seeing only threat, you begin to see options. Instead of hearing only noise, you hear patterns. Instead of reacting emotionally, you respond strategically. This is why calm individuals appear powerful, not because they dominate, but because they are not dominated by the moment. Pressure also distorts communication. Under stress, people speak to defend themselves, not to clarify reality. They interrupt. They justify. They over-explain. Calmness reverses this. A calm person listens longer than expected. They pause before answering. They choose fewer words, not more. This creates an imbalance. Others begin to fill the silence. They reveal more than they intended. They expose uncertainty. Calmness shifts the dynamic without confrontation. It does not need to assert authority. It allows authority to emerge naturally. Staying calm under pressure is also an act of self-respect. It communicates that your inner state is not available to be hijacked. You do not surrender clarity for approval. You do not trade composure for speed. You trust your ability to remain aligned. This trust compounds. Each time you remain calm in difficulty, you reinforce an internal signal. I can handle this. That signal changes future behavior. Fear loses leverage. Urgency loses control. You stop associating pressure with danger and start associating it with focus. This is not optimism. It is familiarity. Pressure becomes familiar territory. Calmness also reduces regret. Most regret does not come from failure. It comes from actions taken in emotional haste, words spoken too quickly, decisions made too early, boundaries crossed under stress. Calmness protects against these errors. It creates a buffer between stimulus and response. That buffer is where choice lives. Without it, life becomes reactive. With it, life becomes intentional. Remaining calm does not mean remaining silent. It means remaining deliberate. Sometimes calm action is firm. Sometimes it is direct. Sometimes it is decisive. Calmness does not avoid difficulty. It meets difficulty without distortion. This is why calm people are often trusted in critical moments. Not because they know more, but because they lose less clarity under pressure. They are steady when others fragment. That steadiness creates reliability. Reliability creates influence. Not influence through force, but influence through consistency. Staying calm under pressure also changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who handles things when motivated. You begin to identify as someone who remains aligned. Regardless of conditions, this identity shift is subtle but powerful. You stop needing perfect circumstances to perform. You stop waiting for confidence to appear before acting. Confidence becomes a result, not a prerequisite. Calmness allows you to act before certainty, before reassurance, before validation. It is not reckless. It is grounded. And grounding is what pressure tries to disrupt. When you remain calm, you deny pressure its purpose. Pressure wants reaction. Calmness offers presence. Pressure wants collapse. Calmness offers structure. Over time, this changes how others respond to you. They slow down around you. They choose words more carefully. They sense boundaries without needing to be told. This is not intimidation. It is coherence. Coherence is persuasive. Pressure does not disappear as life progresses. It increases. Responsibilities grow. Expectations multiply. Time becomes more constrained. The question is not whether pressure will arrive. It will. The question is whether pressure will lead or whether you will. Staying calm under pressure is not about control over others. It is control over access. Access to your attention. Access to your reactions. Access to your direction. When that access is protected, pressure loses power. You remain intact, not rigid, not detached, but steady. And steadiness, sustained over time, becomes one of the most reliable forms of strength. Not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakable. If this perspective resonates, let it settle, not as instruction, but as orientation. Calm is not something you force. It is something you practice. And pressure is where practice becomes visible. There is another side of pressure that most people never examine. Pressure does not only test how you act. It tests how you think about yourself while acting. Under pressure, many people begin to doubt their own competence. They rush not because time is short, but because confidence is unstable. Calmness stabilizes self-trust. When you remain calm, you send yourself a quiet signal. I do not need to panic to perform. That signal matters because the mind follows the frame you give it. Pressure often creates the illusion that everything must be solved immediately. But urgency is not the same as importance. Calmness helps you separate the to dot when you slow down internally, you begin to ask better questions. What actually needs action right now? What can wait? What is noise? And what is signal? This clarity reduces unnecessary effort. You stop spending energy reacting to distractions. You conserve it for decisions that actually move things forward. Calmness also changes how pressure feels in the body. The tension does not disappear, but it becomes manageable. You notice it without resisting it. You breathe without forcing control. You stay present instead of escaping into overthinking. This presence creates endurance, not explosive effort, but sustained output. And sustained output is what builds long-term strength. Many people burn out not because pressure is too high, but because they never learn how to stay composed inside it. They fight the feeling instead of working with it. Calmness teaches cooperation with difficulty. Over time, this cooperation becomes confidence, not loud. Confidence, not performative confidence, but quiet. Certainty. The kind that does not need reassurance. The kind that does not collapse when conditions change. Pressure will always exist. Deadlines, expectations, uncertainty, responsibility. None of that goes away. But your relationship with pressure can change. You can treat it as an enemy, or you can treat it as a signal to slow down, a signal to focus. A signal to respond with intention. Staying calm under pressure does not mean you are unaffected. It means you are in command of how you engage. And that command, maintained consistently, becomes one of the most practical advantages a person can have. Not because it makes life easy, but because it